Hello everyone and welcome to the first garage video of the year. Woo! Preparations for this year is a bit easier for me. I've got a car that's in one piece. It's got an engine in it still, miraculously. So this episode is all about fire extinguishers. So because I built this car recently, I've ended up putting in the larger fire extinguisher system that you need nowadays. So if you have a look in here, I've just got a OMP Torini model of fire extinguisher. Was it 4.25 litres? That's really the standard that you need to go for nowadays. Originally, for your club-based racing, you didn't need... there wasn't too much involved in the regulations as far as sort of nozzle positions, how many nozzles you have, things like that. You always meant to follow manufacturer's instructions, but there wasn't really any major checks. One of the big changes this year is that the MSA in the UK have turned around and basically said your fire extinguisher has to be installed to the FIA spec that the fire extinguisher is designed for, and they aren't allowed to give any leeway on that anymore. So whether you think common sense prevails, yeah, you've just got to follow the rules. So my fire extinguisher at the moment, I have, following the instructions, the fire extinguisher comes out and goes to a T-piece, and then what I actually did was run that through to the back, to twin nozzles at the back, and those twin nozzles are essentially pointing at the fuel tank at the back, because if with this it's fiberglass, the tank's right behind it. I just thought if someone comes and slams into the back of me, which is quite probable, they're going to put out a fire or help suppress it for longer if the worst was to happen. The other side of it comes through the bulkhead, so it comes up through in that corner, runs along here. So I've got one nozzle on the hot side where the exhaust is, and one nozzle sort of pointing over where the carbs are, which is a good ignition point, as I know. And then the last one actually runs back through the bulkhead and is just down here, and that's basically spraying onto me. So the problem I have now is if I'm to follow the instructions for my particular fire extinguisher properly, it's 6 nozzles, so I've got 5 at the moment. It needs 6 nozzles, 3 in the engine bay, 3 in the cockpit. And what they're basically saying is these 2 are correct, but this third one I should actually be turning and directing to the main source of ignition around here. So you'd have one at one side of the engine bay, one at the other. So I might move that a little bit further along. Then this line actually I'm going to run through to there. That ticks the box for the engine bay. And then in here, probably go around the other side. This T-piece, I'm actually going to move. Well, actually, that's not bad where it is because I quite like the accessibility of there. But this pipe work is essentially going to change where it will come up. I'll have a nozzle here because they're asking for one in the footwell that sprays this way. If there's a seat, I don't have one, but follow the instructions. And then the other 2 I'm actually going to run where the roll cage is. I'm going to run along because it asks for 2 nozzles each side of the footwell on the driver's side. So that is what I'm going to do. So let's get to it. Okay, so what I've done is quite an easy fix for me from the engine side of things. I've kept these two because these are, from my fire extinguisher side, hot side, sort of more fuel side, but near the actual bulkhead. And then they asked for another one. Mine actually shows it round here pointing this way, but that's because it's the picture showed the exhaust side, but they said like fuel side or high temperature side, you know, the risk of fire. Obviously with an old car it's the carbs, so I've actually just ran it now round through here, and it's actually, the nozzle is just there, so that's spraying out straight into, on cross flows it generally, if it's going to leak fuel from here, the dizzy is underneath, and so that's really the source of ignition, hence why I've got these, because if fuel spills out it'll run away from the ignition side. But so I've got that there now, and so that's the engine bay sorted, so it's just inside the car now. One thing to remember, make sure, another part of the FIA rulings is the fixings. You can't use cable ties anymore or something like that. It needs to be a metal fixing, so I'm actually using these rubber lined metal fixing points, so the rubber gives it a sort of a good grip and doesn't cut into the pipe at all, but it is a metal clip, so in a fire the pipe's still going to stay in the same position. I think that's really what I want to do. So now it's inside. Okay, and that's it, all finished. So we go from the start, in line with the manufacturer's instructions. We have fire extinguisher here, T-piece just after it, nozzle inside the actual passenger side footwell, and then that runs through to a couple of nozzles you can't even see. There we go. So a nozzle right there, which runs through, so that's one side, and then another one's there, so that's the other side. So I've got three inside there. And then in the engine bay, it comes through from that T-piece. You've got one on the hot side where the exhaust is, you've got the other side which is more sort of ignition, and then the pipe now actually runs through and points straight at where the carbs are. That's really where the source of the fire is on this engine bay, which I know all too well. So that's it. Make sure you read the instructions, because the last thing you want is to get scrutineering on the first day and they go, I'm sorry, your car cannot go on the track today. So we'll leave it that. Next video, no idea what I'm doing next, but I'll catch you later.